Two Guys in the Dark.
About 9 years ago, I happened to have a 3-year relationship with a very wounded man. At first, the attraction was just on his side. I didn't see him that way. But slowly, as I got to know him more, my feelings began to grow for him. To my surprise, I had fallen in love. It was a very passionate affair in the beginning. We were both very passionate people with strong personalities. That created both fireworks and a lot of turmoil. It was the first time that I truly completely gave myself over to someone and trusted him 100% with my heart. It was a very big leap for myself. I happen to like to keep a little bit of a shell on the outside because my insides are super insensitive. When I came into the relationship, I was who I've always been, a woman who feels things deeply, loves wholeheartedly, intensely passionate about life, and all the things that there are to discover and experience. And a person who, whenever I have a beautiful experience with, I want to share it with others, so that they can also feel the beauty and magic of this life that we have all been given. Unfortunately, this was a huge problem for my ex-boyfriend. He was an abuse survivor, suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. My natural impressiveness and passion for life felt unsafe to him. For him, it felt unpredictable and unstructured. And the parts of him that had been wounded long ago, when he had been a naturally impressive boy, were terrified by my total openness and willing to plunge all myself into an experience. In order to survive by what he claimed, he had to shut down all these natural open parts of himself as a child, because in his mind, he believed that these beautiful parts of him had attracted the abuse that he experienced. Therefore, these aspects of himself had to be bad and punishable. And therefore, these aspects in others were also bad. The relationship became emotionally manipulative, then emotionally abusive. Because profound devotion to the ones that I love is kind of my thing, and I was pretty young at the time. I stayed and kept hoping that love would be enough to help him heal, but it wasn't. One day I was at lunch at a restaurant with him and his best friend, and a really great salsa song had come on the speakers. I grew up in Panama, so salsa music is in my blood, and dancing is too. I was trained as a dancer from the ages of 6 to 15, so when a good salsa song comes on, I can't help but dance to it. I don't really care where I am or who is watching me. Out of pure excitement and in total innocence, I jump up and joyfully begin to dance right by our table at the restaurant to the song. "Sit down! You're acting like a total child. Stop showing off, making this all about you, and trying to get everyone to look at you. You're embarrassing me," came the sharp and loud command of my ex. I was mortified. Shame had filled my whole body like hot molten lava as the people in the restaurant who overheard him began to look at me. I sat down, and for the next 9 years, I just stopped dancing completely. Even after our relationship had ended, I unconsciously suppressed my natural need to move my body and express emotions through dance. I stopped dancing at weddings and at parties. I stopped having my nighttime dance parties in my apartment with the lights off. It wasn't a conscious decision. In fact, I was completely unaware that I had simply stopped dancing until recently. I just somehow unconsciously bought into the story. The illusion that my natural impulse to want to get up and dance, express my feelings throughout movement, was just somehow egotistical and show-offy. I'm now trying to work on myself and trying to get back into the old me and trying to get back into the dance. It's something that I miss, and it was also something that I really, really loved doing. So I was in high school. I met this guy in my German class. We had hit it off and suddenly started dating. We dated for about 7 months. He kept pressuring me to have sex, but I wasn't ready. Mind you, I was about 15, going on 16, so I broke it off with him. He proceeds to stalk me at school. He follows me around to my classes. He calls my house all the time. Shows up at my place of work. He calls every Sunday around 4 p.m., telling me that he is going to OD on pills and kill himself. My dad happened to get on the phone and put an end to all of that. To top off all of that crazy, he stalks me to a class again and hands me a letter. I go into my class. I start to read it. And it happens to be this letter about how he is going to end himself and my guy friend because he thinks that we are all together, and how he's going to blow up the school and stalk me forever. The worst part is that the note had blood all over it. He had cut his wrists, across, not down, and then wrote the note. I turned the note into the office. He was suspended shortly after. Now we fast forward about 10 years later. I still get messages that he is in love with me, and that he is never going to let me go. I've called the cops on him, but they won't do anything about it. So I am going to have to change my number and possibly move, and hope that this guy never contacts me ever again. My foray into online dating wasn't exactly what I had expected. Prior to this particularly horrendous date, I had only met someone from Tinder once. He was a bouncer at a club that I frequented, and we played Mario Kart for 2 dates before calling it quits. After hearing a few success stories, I decided to give it a shot once again. I was 24 and living with my parents. Figured new year, new me. My Tinder date, first of all, showed up to our date spot at Timothy's Cafe unprofessionally, 30 minutes late. He then proceeds to tell me about his anti-sex Catholic upbringing, his desire for a homemaking wife, and his penchant for feet. I'm not one to judge people for their fetishes, but correct me if I'm wrong, this definitely wasn't a first date talking point. The date had ended with a somewhat unwanted sloppy kiss besides my partner's van in the parking lot, and a strong desire to never see this human being ever again. Turns out he had other plans. I'd let it slip where I worked, which was a fair distance from where I met him and where he happened to live. A week later, he appeared at my place of employment for an interview. He reached a whole new level of creep. Once he had gotten hired, I requested shift times that I did not overlap with his. Eventually, he got fired for harassing a client, which I warned my boss about at the time. I hate to say that I told you so, but just kidding. I love it. I told you so. I started dating this guy in 2015. We had a great relationship that I didn't really see going anywhere, but it ended up being a 4-year relationship where we talked about kids, our future, and all that other stuff. The biggest problem is that he was a raging alcoholic. It was really bad. I got really tired of his immature garbage and the drinking, so I had just finally left. I ended up dating a girl after that. Little did I know, she had a borderline personality disorder. I didn't know what that was, and when I found out, she was really dangerous and impossible to deal with. She was already living with me. I had spent a lot of time trying to get safely out of that situation, and during the exit, I started talking to my ex-boyfriend once again. He had wanted to work things out, but hadn't really done any work on himself in the few years that I was with her. I went ahead anyways, started investing in things with him once again, only to find him really reserved about the whole thing. Fast forward a few months, I had to find out from my now ex, the one with bipolar, that they've slept together quite a few times. No hanging out, no relationship whatsoever, but a few times she texted him to come over for sex, and he did it. His excuse was, he was totally and completely wasted every single time. Her reasoning was that she wanted to burn him, so I wouldn't want him anymore. Having a hard time with this one, because it feels too fucked up to even be real. I'm about to just leave him once again, and walk away from this whole situation. I think that I should do some more investigating first, just to make sure before I do anything rash.
I should start out by saying I met this boy when I was 15. For his namesake, I will call him Steve. Now Steve was the moody teenage boy. I met him in 10th grade English. I was drawn to him because he never brought up his head, never spoke out. I wanted to be his friend, and that was my first mistake. Steve was a spaz, someone who you would pass by day and never give you the time of day. I became his study buddy. I morally forced myself into his day-and-day life, That was my second mistake. I got this boy needing me to be normal. I got his grades up. I made him fall in love with me. I'm not painting myself in the best light. I was a young girl who thought she knew what love was, and I wasn't right about that. Let's move on 3 weeks after he told me he loved me, and I thought I was on cloud 9. You see, we live less than 3 city blocks apart, and by that point, my mother would let me walk to his house. I started to notice he wasn't the social butterfly, even with his friends. He latched himself to me, and only me. His best friends used to joke he was becoming my shadow. I didn't at the time notice this was right. Me and him dated for over 6 months before he started getting bad. To this point, he was a weeb and addicted to hentai, normal teenage boy behavior stuff. But now he was telling me he was a demon, that he had traded his soul to walk again, and that he now owned an army in hell. I should have ran, but thinking he was joking, laughing it off, and started to say I'm a goddess stuck in a normal human body. I know, but he used to joke I had to be a goddess to love him. It just kept getting weirder and weirder. He tried to do magic on me to force me into things. By this point, it was my birthday. School had ended for the year, and I spent the summer with him, and only him because his friends refused to deal with his demonic self. I used to nap around him because I thought I felt I was safe. I woke up being touched with his hands down my pants, and him touching himself. I got up quickly, and this jerk was the first time I had been touched in a very long time. Me and him argued for hours that day afterwards. I refused to hang out with him for a while without another over. I found out later when I napped, as they played video games, he wasn't the only one that would touch me. Around Halloween, he pushed me too far in a fight. He called me everything but a white girl, and had me pinned to his whiteboard in his room by my throat. I kicked him in the shins. He ran to his best friend, who had been making a sandwich at the time, came and found me grabbing my ex's BB gun. I softly, and not crazy like, walked out, and this boy was running down the street. I took aim and hit him in the shoulder blade. His best friend looked me in the face, put his mocha hands up, and said, "I have no problems with you." I then calmly walked over to Steve, crouched down, and told him I would not be treated like that if he dared touch me again. They would never find him. And then walked into his house and locked myself in his room. Being the stupid teenager I was, I forgave him, and he didn't press charges. We had broken up over something not related to this, and I thought we could be friends. He got him a girl that we will call Eve. She was insane, just as much as him. Because he told her he still loved me, she tried to kill me, and him and herself, in school one day by forcing a bottle pins down his throat at breakfast, trying to stab me in a hall, and then slitting her wrist at lunch at the library. She got locked up in a mental facility last time I checked. They moved to Texas, and she was still locked away. I broke away from our friends by this point. I couldn't deal with it. I found another guy I thought could be Mr. Right, and was moving on with myself. Steve would call me 20 times a day at this point. It got to the point that I couldn't sleep. I thought about changing my number, but how to explain that to my small, loving mother? Then he changed ways. He made an account on Facebook. The copy of mine down to minor details. He had everything, all of my pictures. He tried to be me, made my mother think it was my account. He started to message me, being so confusing to the point that I didn't know what to do. He would tell me what I'm wearing, and that I looked perfect. He would tell me in the middle of the night to go outside, and I could be with him, just us as one person. That the field behind my house would take us far away. I blocked that account, saved all the screenshots I could, and went to the police at that time, which was over 10 years ago. The cops didn't care about it, though. They had better things to do. He later decided he was gay. After ruining my life, he chose to run away to be a kept boy for an ex-police officer. He still messages me on his main account once a year, telling me he misses me. Girls and boys, don't be a Steve. I had just turned 16 a few months before this. I should have learned my lesson, but I hadn't. This man was charming in an ugly duckling kind of way. So tall and nerdy. I fell hard for him. I thought he was a prince. This prince came from 6 other siblings, and an insane mother. Luke was a sweet boy. A virgin I didn't have to chase. He chased me, a complete change from my last 2 boyfriends at this point. It was a hurricane of feelings. He bought me gifts. He would pick me up from school for snacks. He would take me on walks around because he didn't have a car. He seemed like a gentleman. I later found out he was just grooming me. He was 23. He should have never been around me. But let's move on. I had been dating him for about 4 months. When he first took me, we were at his house with his siblings all around us. Rooms over at this point. I didn't have a choice. I still remember hearing his younger sister laughing through the door. I had to be picked up that night. I cried in the bathtub as I scrubbed my skin raw. I kept getting worse. Each time he took me, or had me over, I was slipping into a deeper depression. I thought that was love. No, this was just possession. I was just a young girl. It happened daily for a while, and then kept happening out in public. I didn't have a chance to choose. I stopped being me, and became what he wanted, which was his toy. It kept up for about another 3 months before I broke up with him. I stopped eating for about a week, not moving, crying if anyone ever touched me. My mother had no choice. She had to Baker Act me. I spent 3 days relearning to re-eat, which to this day is hard for me. I can forget to eat for days. I still don't like being touched or letting men near me. The whole time I was in the mental hospital, I begged for him. I thought without him that I couldn't live. I couldn't be whole. He was never charged with anything for breaking me. I cried when I finally figured out he had this grand plan. He turned me from a young girl into a survivor. It took months before I could go out in public without a panic attack. I still run into him sometimes to this day after breaking my conditioning. I still freeze, and in fear, turn around and run in the other direction. My mother broke us up. I'm glad for that. Girls, don't be me. If a boy 2 years older than you in your teens asks you out, tell him no. It's not worth the pain. Nothing is worth going through that. Prince Charming is not a man years older than you. He's not your teacher or your best friend's uncle. He's not, I promise you. I was a victim, because I was his brother's best friend. I still talk to his brother. His mother hates me for taking his brother's virginity. His sisters finally think that I'm okay. This happened between Steve and Luke. I dated a JROTC brat. We will call him Ryan now. Ryan, he was a military brat. He treated me with the respect that I deserved at first. It was lovely. He treated me like a princess. He would walk me to class, carried my books, called me his milady. But as these stories go, it wouldn't last. He had a temper and liked to grab me by my arms. I would have bruises daily. I would try to walk away and end up with black eyes. I dated him for only 3 months. He was respected by all the JROTC brats, and he had told them that I was not to be messed with. We separated because I went over to his house one afternoon when he didn't suspect me of coming over with cookies. I found him with peanut butter on his shaft, and him getting his dogs to lick him, and another one of them mounting him. I just closed his door and walked out. Didn't tell him I was there. I just went home and didn't tell him that I ever was over. I called him later that night, saying we were through because I couldn't deal with his anger. He begged me to come back and that he would change. I couldn't, though. He told me I would rue the day I met him. Afterwards, my life became hell. The full JROTC turned on me and started to pick on me and destroying my things. A freshman cadet came up to me with a full thing of orange juice and poured it onto my brand new laptop and called me a whore for leaving him. I lost it and locked myself in the bathroom that day. I thought of going back just for the torture to stop. I didn't, though. Instead, I went to the guidance office and had my lunch changed and spent the rest of the year avoiding everyone. It was hard. I cut everyone out of my life yet again, including my soul sister. That was when I met Luke. To this day, this man doesn't know that I know he's a dog toucher. Last I heard, he was kicked out of the military for another reason with dishonorable discharge. This is an ex that I never thought that I would talk about to anyone. My family never knew that I dated him. It only lasted 3 weeks, but then that itself should never have been that long. I will call him James. Now James is over 5 years older than me, and was my neighbor. I've known him since he moved in, since I was 8. He was always the forbidden fruit to me. I never thought it would give me the time of day. He was also a brony. That is very important to remember. When I turned 19, I finally had the courage to ask him out. He said yes, and then told me that I could have asked him out at 13, and he would have dated me. He said I remind him of Fluttershy. That should have been my first sign that it wasn't going to work. From day one, he didn't want to leave his house. We always had to meet when no one was around. I was always locked up in his room as we watched My Little Pony, while I wore a light yellow shirt he bought me, with no shorts under it, and was held in his lap. He wanted me to be his lap pet. I figured 3 days into dating, I was just happy to have someone to cuddle with. It kept getting weirder because he kept asking me to talk like Fluttershy, and act like her. He even bought me a pink wig. I know he was really not in reality. I kept coming back. The day he asked to take me, he also asked me to do it as Fluttershy. I lost it. I thought he was joking. I'm a person, not a pony. I stopped going over there. Stopped talking to him. His family jokes that I would make a perfect girlfriend for him. Still to this day, he moved away not weeks after we separated. He found a girl completely opposite of me. I hear they married, but now are getting a divorce. I think he's still into My Little Pony. I think he's okay, but I'd rather not see him ever again. Lilith was a pretty girl, a wild child. I met her online when I was 20. I loved her harder than all of my other exes. I wanted to marry her to the point I left my sick mother to meet her, in Iowa. She was sweet, addicted to the Crow storyline, and a Deadpool addict. We had plans to get married. We at this point had been dating for over 9 months, and I was in love. She was schizophrenic. I never knew till I got up there and got off my plane. I was so happy to see her, to hold her, and love her. It lasted 3 days into my visit. She stopped her meds 3 days before I showed up. She said because she wanted me and her to fully be ourselves. She remembers the visit completely different. It seems I berated her. I made her feel like shit for not wanting sex. No, that's not what happened. I tried once to be intimate with her, and she froze because she thought that she was in the wrong body, that she was male. So I let it drop. We just cuddled, and when she was at work, I would cook her dinner. I later met my twins, my big brothers from this trip. They were her oldest friends. I spent that night after meeting them the happiest this whole trip. I met my future family. That was till we got back from the party. She slapped me and told me to learn my place. Then she went to bed. The next morning she went back to normal, the loving, goofy girl that I knew. This only lasted 3 more days before she started telling me that she was part of death, that she remembered her last 5 lives, and that she was only a piece of death, that she, in her last life, was Jack the Ripper, that she planned to hunt down the rest of the pieces to put herself back together, and that I didn't remember it, but I was life itself, her creator, and true love. This went on for about a week before it went to a head. She came back from work and lost it on me. It seems I had been a horrible love, and I was abusing her, that I'd been calling her bad names, that I had hit her. This never happened. I spent the next 2 days under a desk hiding from Lilith's wrath. I didn't eat or drink anything for 2 days. I left my phone there, and the twins had to get me because I cried to them to come and get me. They got me home. This is how I got my brothers. They are everything, and without them, I would have died in the college dorm. I found out later that she had a major breakdown, started to collect sheep hearts, and got kicked out of college. The twins stopped being her friend, and she found a new therapist who got her on her new meds. Then she convinced me that she was truly a male. Last I heard, she had the surgery and legally changed her name from Lilith to Cain. And then he married a trans girl. Once in a blue moon, I still get messages from either of them telling me to burn in hell.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.